Family, let me talk to you for a moment, because if you're going to rise in this season, you can't just wait for motivation to come find you. You've got to speak yourself into alignment every single day. There is a war over your mind, a tug of war over your peace. And if you don't anchor your spirit before the world starts pulling at you, you'll find yourself running on empty before you even step out the door. That's why today we're diving into 9 things to tell yourself every day, 9 truths that refuse to let you play small, 9 reminders that pull you out of your past and push you straight into your purpose, 9 declarations that remind you who you are before anyone else tries to tell you. Because in a world loud with comparison, chaos, and confusion, you must become your own preacher, your own encourager, your own daily revival. And once you start speaking these truths over your life, baby, the atmosphere around you will have no choice but to shift. Let's get into it. When you wake up in the morning, before the world starts calling your name, before your notifications start buzzing, before the weight of responsibility starts knocking at the door of your peace, there is a sacred moment where you get to decide who you're going to be today, not who your past says you are. Not who fear tells you to shrink into, not who circumstances try to mold you into, but who God has already spoken over your life. When I say speak purpose before pressure tries to rewrite your identity, I'm talking about choosing alignment before chaos, choosing truth before insecurity, choosing identity before the enemy whispers confusion. Because pressure has a way of dressing up like urgency. It will show up with deadlines, expectations, opinions, and comparisons. And if you're not rooted in purpose before all of that hits, you will find yourself negotiating with things God never asked you to negotiate with. Pressure will make you perform instead of become. Pressure will make you chase applause instead of healing. Pressure will make you forget who you are just to keep up with who everyone else wants you to be. And if you don't intentionally speak purpose at the top of your day, you will drift into identities that were never yours in the first place. Purpose is not something you stumble into accidentally. It's something you awaken on purpose. It's that inner knowing that whispers, you were created for more than the noise around you. It's that holy nudge reminding you that you're not here to survive life. You're here to shape it. When you start your morning declaring purpose, you anchor your soul in truth. You tell your mind, before any demand tries to define my worth, I will define my intention. Before any voice tries to diminish me, I will declare who I am. Before any pressure tries to push me out of character, I will walk in God's assignment for my life. Speaking purpose every day is like putting spiritual armor on your identity. It reminds you that your life is not random. Your path is not accidental. Your breath is not wasted. You have an assignment attached to your existence, and you cannot afford to let pressure distort the blueprint. Pressure has a way of sounding like responsibility, but not all responsibility is yours to carry. Some of it is borrowed from comparison. Some of it is inherited from trauma. Some of it is picked up from trying to prove something. But purpose strips all of that away. Purpose says you don't have to prove anything. You just have to be who God designed. Purpose frees you from the need to please. Purpose frees you from chasing validation. Purpose frees you from performing just to be seen. When you speak purpose, you remind yourself that you are not moved by pressure. You are guided by destiny. And destiny does not operate on the world's timeline. Destiny is rooted in divine timing. Destiny grows in unseen places. Destiny matures in silence. So when you speak purpose over your life, you give yourself permission to be led by God instead of dragged by anxiety. There will be days when pressure tries to convince you that you're behind, that you're not enough, that you're failing your family, your dreams, your expectations. Pressure will tell you, hurry, fix it, do more, be more, don't rest, don't pause. And if you don't speak purpose first, you will believe the lie that you are only as valuable as your productivity. But purpose reminds you that your identity isn't earned. It's given, it's sealed, it's rooted in something eternal. Purpose reminds you that God never asks you to run yourself empty in order to prove your worth. He asks you to walk with him, to trust him, to move in step with him. So when you speak purpose before pressure, you take back your authority, you take back your clarity, you take back your name. Purpose will always call you higher, but pressure will always push you faster. They are not the same. Purpose grows you. Pressure drains you. Purpose develops you. Pressure distracts you. Purpose clarifies your direction. Pressure clutters your spirit. That's why your morning words matter. That's why your daily declarations matter. You can't afford to wake up and react to whatever the day throws at you. You have to wake up and command your spirit into alignment. You have to wake up and say, before the world tries to rename me, I will name myself. Before pressure tells me I'm overwhelmed, I will tell myself I'm equipped. Before fear says I'm unqualified, I will declare that I'm chosen. Some of us are fighting battles in our minds because we allow pressure to speak louder than purpose. Pressure says you're not doing enough. Purpose says you're right where you need to be. Pressure says people are ahead of you. Purpose says you're on a different assignment. Pressure says you have to fix it all today. Purpose says God is working behind the scenes. And whichever one you feed first will dominate your day. That's why the first words out of your mouth matter. That's why your self-talk is a spiritual strategy. You can't always control the pressure that shows up, but you can control the narrative you agree with. You can control the atmosphere you create inside your own mind. You can control how you center yourself before stepping into a world that profits from your insecurity. When you speak purpose, you are reminding your soul that you are not a reflection of yesterday's failures or today's challenges. You are a reflection of God's intention. You are a reflection of divine craftsmanship. Before pressure tries to use your past against you, purpose reminds you that your past is not your identity, it's your testimony. Before pressure tries to stir up old insecurities, purpose tells you that healing is real and transformation is possible. Before pressure tries to tell you that you're too broken to be used, purpose speaks louder and tells you that God specializes in using what others overlook. Even when life feels overwhelming, purpose is the voice that steadies you. It tells you, you may bend, but you won't break. You may struggle, but you won't drown. You may cry, but you won't collapse. Purpose is the whisper from heaven reminding you that your story is still unfolding. And the more intentional you are about speaking it, the more your spirit begins to align with it. You start to carry yourself differently. You start to think differently. You start to react differently. You stop letting small things shake you. You stop letting loud things intimidate you. You stop letting fast things rush you. Because purpose creates spiritual stability. It builds a foundation under your identity that pressure cannot crack. You have to understand that pressure is loud for a reason. It wants to distract you before you remember who you are. It wants to catch you off guard before you center yourself. It wants to overwhelm you before you claim your authority. But when you speak purpose, you break the cycle. You disrupt the pattern. You shift the atmosphere within yourself. You say, I am not here to survive pressure. I am here to carry purpose. And once you declare that, pressure loses its power. The beautiful thing about purpose is that it doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require you to have everything figured out. It doesn't require you to know every step. Purpose only requires willingness. It requires awareness. It requires intention. When you wake up and declare purpose, you are telling God, I'm here. I'm open. I'm ready to align with what you're calling me to do. You're telling your spirit, I choose identity over insecurity. You're telling your future, I'm coming for what belongs to me. And yes, some mornings you won't feel like speaking purpose. Some mornings your emotions will try to run the show. Some mornings your thoughts will feel heavy, your heart will feel tired, and pressure will feel louder than anything else. But those are the mornings when speaking purpose matters the most. Because purpose isn't about how you feel, it's about what you know. You know you're called. You know you're chosen. You know you're equipped. You know God didn't bring you this far to leave you. And when you open your mouth and speak that truth, you remind your soul that feelings are temporary, but identity is eternal. Every day you speak purpose, you build spiritual muscle. You strengthen your ability to stand firm when life gets turbulent. You cultivate the discipline of remembering who you are, even when everything around you tries to distract you. And eventually, speaking purpose becomes your reflex. It becomes the default setting of your identity. It becomes your spiritual anchor. This is why you have to wake up every morning and say to yourself, I will not let pressure rewrite what God has spoken. I will not let anxiety rename me. I will not let comparison shrink me. I will not let past failures intimidate me. I will not let the demands of the world distort my direction. I will speak purpose first. I will choose intention over impulse. I will choose destiny over distraction. I will choose truth over turmoil. Purpose is your compass. Purpose is your grounding. Purpose is your reminder that even in a world full of pressure, you have the power to choose which voice shapes your identity each day. When you wake up and step into a new day, it's easy to feel like nothing is happening. It's easy to look around and think that your life is standing still, that your prayers are lingering without answers, that your growth is too slow to matter. But one thing you must tell yourself every single day is this: your progress counts, even when it's quiet. Because God does some of his most transformational work in silence. And if you only measure your progress by what's visible, you'll miss the miracles happening beneath the surface. We live in a world that celebrates loud breakthroughs but overlooks the quiet steps. A world that claps for the finish line but rarely acknowledges the discipline it took to get there. But your destiny is built in those quiet moments. Your elevation is shaped in the unseen places. Your strength is developed in the silence where no one is applauding. The world may not notice those internal shifts, but heaven sees every single one of them. Progress doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes progress feels like resistance. Sometimes it feels like choosing peace instead of reacting. Sometimes it's deciding to forgive when you still feel the sting. Sometimes it's showing up to pray, even when your faith feels tired. Sometimes progress is staying in the process when everything in you wants to run. That's progress too. And if you don't remind yourself that those small steps count, you will sabotage your own journey by believing nothing is happening. The enemy loves to whisper lies in the silence. He loves to tell you that you're not changing, that you're not growing, that you're stuck, that God has forgotten you. But just because the process is quiet doesn't mean it's empty. Quiet seasons are often the most sacred seasons because they demand trust over evidence. They force you to lean into God rather than lean on what you can see. They stretch your faith, they refine your character, and they expose the parts of you that noise could hide. You have to train your mind to honor the slow work, to honor the days when growth feels invisible, to honor the decisions no one sees but God. Progress is made in the steady yes, the consistent discipline, the private battles, the personal breakthroughs. You don't always shout your way into growth. Sometimes you grow because of the conversations you have with yourself in the dark moments. Sometimes you grow because you didn't go back to what broke you when you were tempted. Sometimes you grow because you chose to wait instead of rushing into something unhealthy. Sometimes you grow because you walked away from something that no longer aligned with your purpose. Those are victories too. Those are shifts too. Those are milestones, even when they don't look dramatic. We are conditioned to believe that progress must be loud, fast, Instagram ready, worthy of a highlight reel. But God often develops what's sacred in the places that seem silent. Think about a seed, buried, unseen, pressed beneath the soil. Nothing about that process looks impressive. Nothing about it looks powerful. But underneath the surface, transformation is happening. The seed is breaking open. Roots are forming. Structure is being built. Identity is strengthening. And by the time the world sees the sprout, the real work has already been done. That's how your growth looks too. People may not see the roots God is forming. They may not see the old patterns you've broken. They may not see the habits you're rebuilding. They may not see the healing happening inside you. But progress doesn't need an audience to be real. Progress doesn't need applause to be impactful. Progress doesn't need noise to be meaningful. Some seasons of your life are designed to be quiet because God doesn't want you distracted by external validation. He wants you grounded in who He's making you to be, not in who people think you are. Quiet progress protects you. It gives you space to grow without pressure. It allows your character to catch up with your calling. It strengthens the foundation of your identity so that when the blessings do show up, you are not overwhelmed by them. Everyone wants the spotlight moment, but not everyone is willing to embrace the silent shaping. But if you skip the silent shaping, the spotlight will crush what your character can't carry. So God, in His wisdom, gives you quiet seasons to build endurance, resilience, humility, and strength. You need to remind yourself every day that progress is not measured in speed, it's measured in direction. As long as you're moving forward, even if it's slow, even if it's clumsy, even if it's imperfect, you are growing, you are evolving, you are becoming. Sometimes you're not sprinting, sometimes you're crawling, but crawling forward still counts. Every decision that brings you closer to who God called you to be is progress. Every act of obedience is progress. Every time you push through discouragement is progress. Every time you choose discipline over impulse is progress. Every moment you decide to stand in faith instead of bow to fear is progress. You don't have to see the results for God to be working. You don't have to feel momentum for God to be moving. You don't have to understand the timing for God to be aligning. And let's be real, some of your greatest progress will come from the battles you fought privately. No congratulations, no audience, no acknowledgement, but you know the war you survived in your mind. You know the temptation you resisted. You know the bitterness you released. You know the boundaries you set that healed your peace. You know the courage it took to confront the things that once controlled you. Heaven saw all of that. Heaven counts all of that. And heaven celebrates all of that. You have to learn to celebrate the unseen wins in your life. Celebrate waking up even when you didn't feel strong. Celebrate praying even when you didn't have the words. Celebrate forgiving even when the hurt was deep. Celebrate choosing peace over chaos. Celebrate choosing wisdom over impulse. Celebrate choosing healing over revenge. Celebrate choosing discipline over comfort. Celebrate choosing purpose over pressure. These moments shape you in ways loud seasons never can. Quiet progress teaches you how to depend on God instead of depending on results. It teaches you how to trust His timing instead of rushing your own. It teaches you patience, endurance, and stability. It rewires your expectations so that your joy isn't attached to outcomes but anchored in faith. When you learn to value quiet progress, you stop living for validation. You stop needing other people to confirm what God is doing in your life. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's timeline. You stop feeling behind because you realize God's pace for you is intentional. Slow seasons are not delayed seasons. Quiet seasons are not empty seasons. They are construction seasons where God is building what will carry you into your next level. Every day you have to remind yourself that progress is happening whether you see it or not. Healing doesn't always announce itself. Growth doesn't always make noise. Breakthrough doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes breakthrough is a slow unfolding. Sometimes healing is a gentle shift. Sometimes growth is a small decision repeated consistently. If you focus only on big moments, you will overlook the daily miracles. You will overlook the grace carrying you. You will overlook the strength increasing in you. You will overlook the wisdom forming inside you. You will overlook the changes that seem small but lead to transformation. Quiet progress is still progress because God is still present. Even when it feels like nothing is moving, God is moving. Even when your life feels still, God is shifting things around you and within you. Even when your prayers seem unanswered, God is aligning circumstances you haven't even stepped into yet. Some of the greatest blessings you will ever receive are being prepared in silence. Some of the greatest breakthroughs you will ever walk into are being shaped behind the scene. And when the moment comes for those blessings to surface, you will realize that every quiet day mattered. Every unseen step counted. Every silent season had purpose. You have to remind yourself daily that slow growth is still growth, that hidden progress is still progress, that small steps are still steps. Don't let impatience rob you of the beauty in becoming. Don't let comparison convince you that you're not moving fast enough. Don't let pressure push you into believing that God isn't working. God works in whispers just as powerfully as he works in wonders. He is shaping you, strengthening you, refining you, maturing you. And just because you don't see the fruit yet doesn't mean the roots aren't growing deep. The quiet seasons teach you to trust the process, but they also teach you to trust yourself, to trust that you are growing even when you don't feel it, to trust that you're changing even when it's subtle, to trust that your discipline is working, to trust that your consistency will pay off, to trust that the version of you God is shaping is emerging piece by piece. Progress isn't always inspirational. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it feels like stretching. Sometimes it feels like pruning. Sometimes it feels like waiting. But all of it is working for your good. Every morning, remind yourself that your progress matters. Remind yourself that your journey is valid even if it's quiet. Remind yourself that evolution is happening within you. Remind yourself that you're becoming stronger, wiser, more grounded, more aligned. Remind yourself that small steps create big transformations. Remind yourself that you are moving forward even when you're not moving fast. Remind yourself that God honors the work you do in silence just as much as the work you do in the spotlight. Quiet doesn't mean stagnant. Silence doesn't mean stuck. Hidden doesn't mean hopeless. Your progress is counting. Your growth is real. Your strengthening is happening. Your transformation is unfolding. When you wake up in the morning, before you step fully into the noise of the day, you have to remind yourself that your mind is not just some random space where thoughts drift in and out without meaning. Your mind is the doorway to your destiny. It is the gate through which every decision, every belief, every fear, every dream must pass, and anything that has access to your mind eventually gains access to your life. That's why you have to guard it like something sacred, because it is. So much of what tries to break you never touches your body, never touches your bank account, never touches your relationships. It starts in your thoughts. It starts with a whisper. It starts with doubt. It starts with anxiety. The enemy knows if he can plant the wrong seed in your mind, he can disrupt the harvest of your future. He knows if he can get inside your thinking, he can influence your identity. That's why you cannot afford to let every voice, every opinion, every pressure, and every fear cross the threshold of your mind unchecked. You have to guard it like a gatekeeper who knows exactly what's at stake. Your mind is the battlefield where victory or defeat is often determined long before you ever step into real world challenges. So many people lose battles they never had to lose because they surrendered mentally before they ever fought physically. They let insecurity narrate their story. They let fear set the tone. They let comparison rob them of confidence. They let past trauma tell them who they are. But when you decide to guard your mind, you make a choice to stop letting life happen to you and start shaping your life through what you allow to take root in your thoughts. You start filtering out the lies that don't belong to you. You start identifying the patterns that keep you stuck. You start recognizing the cycles that drain your strength. You start catching the moments when the enemy tries to slip in through your worry, your exhaustion, your self-doubt. Guarding your mind isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about protecting your inner world so the storms on the outside don't become storms inside of you. Every day you have to be intentional about what you let in. You have to be intentional about what you meditate on. You have to be intentional about what gets your attention. The mind doesn't randomly drift toward peace. It drifts toward whatever's loudest, whatever's familiar, whatever triggers your fears. That's why guarding your mind is active, not passive. You don't guard something by accident. You guard it with awareness. You guard it with discipline. You guard it with boundaries. Every thought is not welcome. Every story is not true. Every memory is not worthy of being replayed. Every assumption is not rooted in reality. Every emotion is not a fact. Guarding your mind means you learn to separate what is helpful from what is harmful, what is truth from what is distortion, what is conviction from what is condemnation, what is God's voice from what is fear's voice. Our minds are powerful, but they are also vulnerable. They absorb what they're exposed to. If you surround yourself with negativity, you start to think negative. If you surround yourself with chaos, you begin to normalize chaos. If you surround yourself with people who doubt themselves, you begin to dilute your own confidence. But the opposite is also true. When you feed your mind truth, you strengthen your foundation. When you expose your mind to purpose, you elevate your thinking. When you surround yourself with peace, you calm the storms within. When you surround yourself with people who speak life, you begin to breathe differently. But you can't do any of that until you guard the entry points. Until you make the decision that your mind is too valuable to be open to anything and everything. For many of us, the challenge isn't that we don't have purpose. It's that our minds are too cluttered to hear it, too filled with worry, with old stories, with assumptions, with what ifs. A cluttered mind becomes a chaotic life. That's why guarding your mind is not just spiritual, it's practical, it's emotional, it's mental, it's strategic. Guarding your mind means protecting your peace like it's non-negotiable. It means limiting access to anyone who constantly triggers your insecurity. It means recognizing when your thoughts are spiraling and stopping the cycle before it takes root. It means refusing to rehearse conversations that never happened and refusing to build catastrophes out of things that haven't occurred. It means you learn to interrupt the thought patterns that are killing your confidence. Guarding your mind also means understanding that not every thought that visits deserves a place to stay. Thoughts come and go, but the ones you feed become beliefs. The ones you repeat become narratives. The ones you agree with become your identity. So many of us accidentally build belief systems out of temporary emotions. We let a moment of insecurity convince us that we're unworthy. We let a moment of fear convince us that we're incapable. We let a moment of loneliness convince us that we're unlovable. We let a moment of failure convince us we're a failure. But when you guard your mind, you stop letting fleeting moments rewrite permanent truths. You stop letting temporary pain dictate lifelong identity. You stop letting emotions sit in the places that belong to truth. Your thoughts are seeds, and seeds don't care whether they are good or bad. They grow either way. If you plant fear, it grows. If you plant doubt, it grows. If you plant anxiety, it grows. But if you plant peace, it grows. If you plant confidence, it grows. If you plant faith, it grows. You get to choose the garden that blooms in your mind, but you can only choose it if you guard it. You can only choose it if you pay attention to what's being planted. You can only choose it if you stop letting anything with a loud voice or a familiar tone influence your thinking. Guarding your mind also means guarding the narratives you tell yourself. You speak to yourself more than anyone else does. Your internal dialogue is constant, and it shapes how you see everything. If your inner voice is harsh, you'll believe everyone else sees you the same way. If your inner voice is insecure, you'll assume the world is judging you. If your inner voice is afraid, you'll interpret everything as a threat. But if your inner voice is grounded in truth, in purpose, in identity, in grace, then you'll move through life with clarity. You'll interpret challenges as opportunities. You'll interpret delays as preparation. You'll interpret rejection as redirection. You'll interpret pressure as growth. But that only happens when you guard the voice inside your head. You can't always control what you hear, but you can control what you replay. You can't always control what thoughts show up, but you can control which ones you entertain. You can't control every situation you face, but you can control the meaning you assign to it. Guarding your mind means you stop giving power to things that don't deserve it. You stop giving influence to voices that don't speak truth. You stop letting people live rent-free in the sacred space of your thoughts. There are people you've forgiven but still replay conversations with. There are situations long over but still living in your imagination. There are fears that never came true but still take up space in your mind. Guarding your mind means evicting everything that is draining your strength, distracting your focus, or diminishing your worth. Your mind is not a dumping ground. Your mind is not a battlefield for every fear. Your mind is not a cage for your past. Your mind is not designed to host every worry. If you're going to step into the version of yourself God designed, you have to remove the noise that keeps you from hearing His direction. You have to silence the lies that drown out your confidence. You have to unclutter the thoughts that make you question your identity. Guarding your mind means learning to challenge your thoughts instead of agreeing with them automatically. You ask, is this true? Is this helpful? Is this from God or is this from fear? The moment you start interrogating your thoughts, you take back authority over your mind. You also have to guard your mind from comparison. Comparison is a thief that sneaks into your thinking and steals your peace one scroll at a time. It convinces you that you're behind. It convinces you that other people are more gifted, more valuable, more worthy. It convinces you that your progress isn't enough. But comparison doesn't know your assignment. Comparison doesn't know your story. Comparison doesn't know your healing. Comparison doesn't know the private battles you fought just to stand where you are. Guarding your mind means refusing to measure your life by someone else's highlight reel. It means refusing to let someone else's timeline rush you. It means refusing to let someone else's success make you doubt your significance. Guarding your mind is a daily discipline. It's waking up and choosing to focus on truth even when lies feel louder. It's choosing to renew your mind instead of recycling old thoughts. It's choosing to challenge your fears instead of submitting to them. It's choosing to speak life over yourself even when your emotions don't match. It's choosing to protect your peace like it's part of your purpose, because it is. Your mind shapes your decisions, your faith, your relationships, your resilience, and your destiny. When you guard your mind, you're not just protecting your thoughts, you're protecting your future, you're protecting your purpose, you're protecting the version of you that's still emerging. Every morning you guard your mind, you strengthen the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. When you wake up in the morning, before your feet hit the floor, before you rub the sleep out of your eyes, before the day starts stacking responsibilities in your lap, you have a choice, one that will shape the atmosphere of your entire day. You have to decide whether you're going to speak faith or speak fear. And every single morning, without fail, fear will try to speak first. Fear is bold like that. Fear doesn't wait for permission. Fear walks into the room uninvited. Fear tries to narrate your day with what ifs and not enoughs, and you can't handle this. Fear tries to steal the mic before faith even opens her mouth. That's why you have to make a conscious, deliberate, intentional decision to choose faith talk over fear talk every single morning. Because if you don't command your thoughts, fear will volunteer to command them for you. Fear talk is familiar. It knows how to disguise itself in language that sounds reasonable. Fear says, be careful, Don't try that. Stay small so you don't get disappointed. Fear says you failed before, so what makes you think this time will be different? Fear says don't get your hopes up, you might get hurt. Fear pretends to protect you, but really it's imprisoning you. It limits your movement, shrinks your dreams, suffocates your courage. But faith talk steps in with a different tone. Faith says you can do this because God is with you. Faith says you survived what should have broken you, so you're stronger now. Faith says your past is not your ceiling, it's your testimony. Faith says God didn't bring you this far to abandon you now. Faith talks in a language that lifts you instead of limits you. And every morning you choose which voice gets the authority to shape your mindset. Fear steals clarity, faith restores it. Fear creates confusion, faith creates confidence. Fear makes you focus on what you can't control. Faith reminds you of what God already controls. Fear makes you rehearse worst case scenarios. Faith calls you to imagine God's goodness unfolding in ways you didn't expect. Fear makes you shrink.